So thank you for your patience, everyone. We took a brief recess after our in-camera session. We have sent out notice to our attendee who was on the line previous to going in camera. So we will move forward with our additional motions that will come forward. So next motion that's on the floor is moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that council authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Employment and Social Development Canada as it relates to Enabling Access Fund. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we are carried. Next on the docket is a motion to moved by Councillor Fody, seconded by Councillor Jameson, that council receive operations report SR-13221 for information. 132. I'm just trying to find in my agenda so I can. 131, 132. Oh, sorry. Springfield House. So we're on the second page of the agenda on the back side. So this is the operations report in regards to Springfield House. Are there any comments or questions in regards to this report for the director? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to, that's why I'm confused here. Which sorry, the operations report 13221. Which report is that? Oh, we're receiving it for information. Okay, I apologize. Is there any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Right, thank you. Next motion, moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Fody, that the October 12th, 2021 public and council meeting minutes and November 1st, 2021 public and council meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that the September 22nd, 2021 EDC meeting minutes, September 28th, 2021 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes, and October 15th, 2021 Municipal Heritage Committee meeting minutes be received and filed. Any discussion, errors, or omissions in any of those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next motion that's on the floor, moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Fody, that the council approve staff reports as recommended at the November 1st, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting. So, gentlemen, you have the full list of staff reports that are in front of you. Are there any reports that you feel that we need to pull and discuss further? Otherwise, I will, okay, I have one. Councillor Maybe, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the one from Prescott for the, I believe it's on that list.
That's the information items.
Oh, sorry, I was ahead of myself.
That's okay. Any further discussion on any of these staff reports? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Okay, now we're on to information items. So I know who's got a question already. So motion is made by Councillor Fody, seconded by Councillor Jameson. The council received the building condition assessment executive summary report. Discussion on, information items. Oh, that's why. Which one am I supposed to read first? This is the one. If the Councillor Jameson. It's just read. Right, I apologize. So the motion is actually moved by Deputy Mayor Lackey and seconded by Councillor Oakey that the information items be received and filed. So Councillor, maybe you have one you'd like to discuss, and I believe that Councillor Jameson also has one, and I see Councillor Fody. So I'll go to Councillor maybe first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. My big question there is, as much as I agree with this, I think it still needs, and this is where our provincial and federal government need to step in, that you can fly back to Canada and not have this same 72-hour request to be tested, whereas with our borders and our day shoppers going across and they get over there, they have to wait 72 hours, find somebody who's going to give them a test before they can get back. I feel that doesn't quite go far enough. So I think we need to make that acknowledgement too, that, and I think it's pending
Asking
very
to
shortly.
support that?
Yes,
So-
I am supporting. Yes,
So you're
but-
asking for a letter of support
yes.
in regards to the Prescott? Okay, not a problem. Do you want me to ask the rest of the counselors so that we pull all three? Okay, Counselor Jameson, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna park it because we're gonna redo the motion to pull the important ones. So Counselor Jameson, I know that you had something, and then Counselor Fody, did I see a hand up on this side of the table? Did you have your hand up? Okay, fair enough. Counselor Jameson.
So we're moved on to the cannabis discussion. Is that what I'm hearing?
Is that in a different?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes. Are you saying, sorry, that you want to pull it
Oh,
for discussion,
sorry.
or do you want it to be
In a
endorsed?
Well, I had talked to you about supporting this, bringing a motion forward to support the letter with respect to talking to Health Canada.
Okay, so if you bring that forward, it means we can discuss that.
Okay,
Which
I
is, I
see,
think, what
okay.
you're asking.
gotcha.
Counselor Fody, what is it that you are in regards to?
It's been covered by Councillor Jameson. I wanted to bring the Enniskillen resolution forward. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion that will be amended, instead of just being items received and filed, will be.
With the exception of the two endorsements.
With the exception of the two endorsements. Okay. So you need a mover into seconder? How many copies?
One moment, please.
Hopefully we don't run out of paper. Okay, so the original mover was Deputy Mayor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Olkey. And so with your indulgence, we'll be amending that motion to ask that the information items be received and filed with the exception of the request for resolution support received from the Township of Enniskillen regarding the licensing of cannabis facilities and the request for resolution support received by the town of Prescott. Deputy Mayor, are you okay with that? And then Councillor Olkey, are you okay with that? Okay. Okay, so now that the motion's on the floor, we'll go with the cannabis. Oh, okay, I apologize. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so motion is on the floor. All those in favor of further discussing of those? Say aye or yay or nay? Any opposed? Okay, so that's carried. So the next motion is specific to each of those. I apologize. So the Enniskillen one's already done. So we'll go with that one first. So Deputy Mayor Lackey is moving. Councillor Oki is seconding that the information items be received and filed with the exception of the request of resolution support received. No, that's not it. Sorry, wrong one. Too many pieces of paper. Still Deputy Mayor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Oki, that council hereby endorse the request for resolution support received from the Township of Enniskillen regarding stricter parameters for the licensing of cannabis facilities. And that the resolution be forwarded to the Ministries of Health, Municipal Affairs and Housing, my MP Michael Barrett, MPP Steve Clark, and AMO for circulation. Now the motion is on the floor. I believe Councillor Jameson, you had some comments to make in regards to this.
Thank you. Thank you I appreciate this being raised. I'm curious to know what our planning director is finding with respect to this, because I found this to be a reasonable and reasoned letter with respect to some of the challenges they're facing. And I'm just curious to know if we have some similar issues in our township.
Thank you, through you. So if you recall, last year, we passed zoning bylaw amendments to our bylaw to recognize where cannabis production and processing is permitted. So we do have a policy framework in place to allow for that in the township, subject to site plan control approval. What we have found, and we ran into it over the summer a few times, is that there's no communication from the federal government in terms of where licenses exist, what properties they're on, and what we're dealing with and what's coming to our township. So there was a couple of situations over the summer where we had building officials finding illegal construction without permits, and we didn't know whether it was permitted or not. It was putting them in a situation where they're attending a property, not knowing whether they're dealing with legal or illegal activity. The mayor did send a letter, I believe it was to, was it the MP?
I believe it was the MP.
To the MP. One of the things that we identified was that when someone applies for a liquor license, you're required to achieve sign off from the fire department, from the planning department, from the building department and the health unit to make sure that all of the health and safety and administrative parameters are addressed prior to that issuance being, or that license being issued, so that the township knows when a new licensed facility pops up that all of the requirements have been met. Similar to an application under the Aggregate Resources Act, where the township has to provide a letter and a sign off that this property is licensed and zoned, or not licensed, sorry, designated and zoned to support this type of an operation prior to the province or the federal government issuing any licenses for it. So there's a big gap in communication right now that's causing problems to a lot of lower tier municipalities. So while we have site plan control, which is the only, site plan control and zoning are the only controls we have to regulate where they're located and how they're located on the ground in terms of addressing odor or light emissions. If we don't know where they are, if we don't know what the size of the license permits in terms of the amount of growth that's allowed on the property, we're putting our bylaw enforcement officers and our building officials in very difficult positions because we don't know what we're dealing with. So I would agree with what that resolution says.
Thank you for that. Councillor Fody, I'll acknowledge you.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. I agree wholeheartedly with our director's comments. When I read this resolution from the Township of Enniskillen, the first thing I thought when I read it through the very first time, we could easily apply our logo up in that top corner. That could easily be us because we have given a green light to sell cannabis. We have given a green light to grow here. And without proper vetting, as our director has mentioned, we're not just putting bylaw enforcement officers and such in harm's way, but the neighboring residents as well. So I fully endorse this.
Any further comments or questions in regards to this? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor of supporting this? All those opposed? And it's carried. We'll ask the clerk to draft that up. So the next motion that's on the floor, I need a mover and a seconder. I'll read the motion first and then I'll ask for the mover and the seconder. That council hereby endorse the request for resolution support received by the town of Prescott regarding testing requirements at the land border crossing, and that the resolution be forwarded to the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable Bill Blair, Minister of Public Safety, Emergency Preparedness, the Honorable Michael Barrett, MP, Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Steve Clark, MPP for Leeds and Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, and Amo. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The biggest reason for this is that it does make a vast step toward what we need to do to get us back to normal. But I do find that it has the one gap that which is not maybe mentioned in it is more the 72-hour testing, which I do feel is something that needs to be more generic, because when you fly into the province from the States, you don't really, that 72 hours doesn't apply if you go for a short term. And that's where we, as economically going across the border, as many people do shop there, if they go over for the day to come back, then they're there for 3 days if they want to do that at this point. And that's the one thing that I find that this letter does not address. And maybe it should, but I still wholeheartedly endorse what it's doing so far.
I
Thank you.
think that the letter itself does ask to revisit the policy in general, so it might accomplish the same thing that you're looking for. Counselor Fody?
Thank you, your worship.
Oh,
When I-
sorry, I never asked for, or you mover and a seconder. I apologize.
Oh.
Counselor Maybe? You move, seconder?
I will.
Counselor Olkey. I apologize, gentlemen. Thank you. Sorry, Counselor Fody.
It's
I
okay.
had a heart attack.
When I read the resolution from the town of Prescott, if you turn to page 2, the first 2 paragraphs at the top of that page are totally contradictory. Whereas air travelers traveling between the United States and Canada are still allowed to use the much cheaper, more readily available antigen COVID-19 rapid test. Therefore, be it resolved that the corporation of the town of Prescott requests that the federal government remove the requirement for Canadian travelers to be tested for COVID-19 when using a land crossing. I'm not supporting this for that very reason. There's a number of US states or areas, maybe not specifically always states, that are still having very high numbers of COVID-19 every day. You know, there's medical facilities down there that are completely overwhelmed. Not that we don't have a few ourselves, but to remove all restrictions just because they're crossing by land, I can't support this. I won't.
Sorry, Counselor Olkey?
Thank you, your worship, and through you. My understanding is that when you cross the land border, you have to get one of these more articulated tests that cost $200 US. And the rapid test isn't anything as burdensome as that.
I think that the intent, I understand what Counselor Fody is saying is that it's not necessarily clearly articulated in the point. The point that I think it was trying to make was that why should they have to have a molecular test when the rapid antigen test is available and used in other jurisdictions and other travel plans? So I think that it's misleading the way that it's worded because it's basically you're saying that it's alluding to removing the restrictions altogether. Okay, Counselor Olkey, I'll have you come jump back in.
Thank you, your worship. And to that end, to cover that, perhaps we should do our own letter to the same addressees, making reference to this letter to the point of allowing the land border crossing to use the rapid test.
Okay, so the motion that's on the floor is to endorse the request for resolution support received by the town of Prescott. If we were to write our own letter, we would have to defeat this and have a whole new.
Yep, you have to defeat it or have a mover and seconder to amend it to say that council hereby directs staff to take other action.
Okay,
What-
I'll recognize Counselor Maybe, then Counselor Jameson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other thing is a fully vaccinated person coming back across is totally different than somebody who hasn't had a vax at all. And that's not really addressed in this letter either at this point.
Counselor Jameson.
All right, I think there's a consensus. It's a terrible letter. I listened to the mayor of Prescott and the mayor of Niagara Falls this morning on the radio, and they were much better on the radio than this letter reflects. At the same time, we talk about hardships. I just want to say that hardships, 30,000, almost 30,000 Canadians are dead. That's a hardship to them and their families. So we've got to be very careful with wording around hardship when we consider what people have really been through. The second thing is in New York State, it's 60% vax. It's only 45% in Alabama, but you can't do that on a day trip. So it's only 60% in New York State. So I, for one, am very cautious about all of this, except to say that it should be, if anything we write, I would be concerned about us addressing the science, what method, how it should be done, other than to say there should be a clarity and consistency of application based on the science,
Yeah.
but not really have an opinion about what they should do. It's the consistency and the science that really matter here. So I'm not really in favor of supporting this letter as it stands, but I certainly think we should, to Councillor Oakey's point, write a letter that basically says, let's be consistent. Let's use the science. Thank you.
Okay, are there further comments in regards to this? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of endorsing the request for resolution support received by the town of Prescott regarding testing requirements at land border crossing? All those in favor, or do you have a question? All those in favor of supporting it? All those in favor of defeating it? Okay, it's defeated. So the next motion that needs to come forward,
If it's defeated, then I would recommend putting it under a notice of motion so we can get on the committee, of the whole
that's
agenda
fair.
and then council.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. So we'll put that on the notice of motion. Okay, make sure I've got my right spot here.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I should also point out notice of motions down after mayor's update. So a counselor at that point in time will have to make that notice of motion to bring it forward.
Thank you. Okay, so before I go to the next motion, is there any unfinished business? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Fody, or Councillor maybe, and then Councillor Fody.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we had talked about the 401 late last meeting and didn't know whether you had a chance to talk to our MTO buddies.
I reached out to our contact and did not receive a response back, unfortunately. We'll continue to reach out at this point. Councillor Fody?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Reading the council updates on Friday, I found some, on the fire department, I should say, I found some information lacking. So I reached out to the fire chief himself, and I was very much satisfied with what I heard. I would like, if we can, to ask the fire chief to explain what it was I had asked for, because I think everybody needs to be on the same page. That's my point.
Okay, I'll ask the fire chief to step forward and discuss the conversation with him and Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Councillor Fody, and through you, Madam Mayor. So we've made a number of changes just structurally with our command structure within Leeds Fire just in the last couple of months since I became chief, and we're not replacing the deputy chief position. I made up a position of Northern District Chief and a Southern District Chief so that we have some coverage on a little higher scale for the North and for the South to cover the newer captains that we've installed in the 4 stations. So I'm pleased to announce that Ian Robertson and Derek Latimer are the district chiefs for those 2 areas. They bring a great deal of experience to that position. And it's more to oversee those upper management captains that are in that group. We interviewed, so in August, we appointed Jesse Gilroy to the station in Station 2 for station captain. Last week, we did the remainder of the stations. So we have Paul Dixon at Station 1. I have Peter Evans in Station 3 and Matt Holland in Station 4 as my station captains. So all my station captain positions are now filled. Tomorrow night, we interview for 3 positions for lieutenant for Station 2 in Sealy's Bay, because currently we only have 1 officer in that station. It's a little tough to manage all the people that we have in there. Monday night, we'll go do our interviews for lieutenants for Station 4, so Lyndhurst Station. And then the upcoming weeks, we have 5 more lieutenants to place between Station 1 and Station 3. So by the time Christmas comes, we'll have put all the officers back in the positions we need. It was an oversight on my part as far as the district chief part goes. I thought we had got that into one of our weekly updates, but apparently I went back through and we missed it. So I apologize to the district chiefs for that. So I'm pretty excited about how that's all kind of coming together. We've got some really good buy-in from the people at the stations, and they seem to be quite happy with the way things are laying out there so far. So thank you, Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Fire Chief. Does anybody have questions for the Fire Chief? Go ahead, Councillor Grow.
Through you, Your Worship. Mike, I just missed the point of why you needed 2 North and a South District Chief. Could you elaborate that or flesh it out a bit? Thanks.
Because I've got 4 basically brand new captains, and I'll have 10 brand new lieutenants within the 4 stations. I thought it was pretty wise to put somebody in a little bit more senior management position with the Fire Master Plan, talking about succession planning. These 2 gentlemen are closer to the end, I'll say closer to the end of their years with fire. And it was more of a position to get them into to bring some new faces into the stations as station captains, and to give those captains a little bit of guidance from that. It also gives me a little bit of a break as well. So if I don't have to respond to all the calls, I don't have to worry if I happen to go away on a weekend. I've got somebody in a more senior management position to cover my.
Just to follow up then, is that a permanent organizational structure, or is it going to be reviewed? And
I'll definitely going to be reviewing it. The job position of district chief, it's going to kind of be a work in progress right now, because we're not exactly sure how that's all going to go. So we've built a job description so far, but we'll review that every year as we do with the rest of them to make sure that we are covering all the bases on that.
structurally, I can understand it then, and financially, has a report come forward?
Financially, it's in the budget for some more honorarium. They're not full-time employees. They're paid on call.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, any further comment in regards to this item? Councillor Fody?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Listening to all the restructuring, and I fully support what you've done here. Ian Robertson and Derek Latimer lack for nothing when it comes to training. Their years of service they've given this township is phenomenal. I can only assume, and that's my level of expertise, I can only assume that all this restructuring and new captains, but more so of the new lieutenants, would leave a level of excitement among all the firefighters. Would that be true?
That'd be very true. I've noticed since we've started to make some of these changes, the attendance is now coming up. Station 3 in particular last week was missing 3 people out of their 18-person roster. And one is we have some attendance issues we have to deal with as well, but one of them was away hunting, one had a family commitment, and one has kind of been a little bit of a no-show. We're working on that. So I'm pretty excited to see the people coming back to those stations. Station 2 in particular, in August when we made those changes, that attendance jumped up, and we were bringing people back that hadn't been coming around very often at all. So people seem to be buying in and jumping back on board, and training seems to be being fulfilled with our firefighters at those stations.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the council, please extend our warm wishes to all the new station captains, as well as the district chiefs, both Latimer and Robertson. We appreciate their commitment to this township and to their community, as well as all the volunteers.
Thank you. It's my plan for the first of the new year to bring all my new officers in so we can introduce
Excellent.
everybody to that. So,
It'll be nice to see some bodies in this room again. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so any other unfinished business? Seeing none, I'll move forward with the next motion that's on the floor, moved by Councillor Oki, seconded by Councillor Gorell. The 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 21-065, being the bylaw to appoint fence viewers for the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. Any comments, questions, queries? Go ahead, Councillor Gorell.
Through you, Your Worship, I see that, excuse me, there's the fees charged to the organization, or whatever, is split or is supposedly paying for the fees to, or the monies per view site to the fence viewer. Is this standard in fence viewing, or as in the Committee of Adjustment, who are, that committee seems to me to be one of the toughest to be on in this township. I don't believe they receive anything for viewing. So is there an equity there, or am I, one is a committee? What are we calling this? These are what, appointments? I'm a little confused. So one group gets a fee per, and the other doesn't. Thank you.
For you, Madam Mayor, I do believe the Committee of Adjustment do get a small remuneration as well, but this is not a committee, it's an appointment to discharge the statutory regulations. So when we have a fence viewing, we need these officers to go and conduct this fence viewing session. It was, I think latest bylaw was 2001. I believe I included it in the package. And the numbers are just outdated. And this is in keeping with what area municipalities are paying their valuers as well. So I think what I did to try to find the median, and then to the flip side of that too, is not just our municipality, but other municipalities are too finding it pretty difficult to find people to volunteer. So this is, it's in the act. It's not regulated. It's not mandated to provide any kind of remuneration for these statutory requirements. But we found that increasing or giving that option, and right now, actually, we haven't undertaken a fulsome process to actually recruit for these positions, but we've reached out to some local farmers who have this knowledge, just in response to an application that we received and the timelines that go along with that. But no, it's not a committee. It's a statutory regulated viewing that has to happen. And I find from a staff perspective and from being in many clerks meetings, to recruit these positions would be near impossible if it was a zero remuneration.
Just as a side, this is the first application we've received in 12 years.
Since 2001, this is the
Oh,
second
sorry.
application.
Second
Yep.
application. So the not that should be the guiding post, but
No,
there's
it was
not much demand on the fence
just then
viewers.
a follow-up. I was just simply curious about the continuity of these positions. This cannot be made into a committee and therefore follow the same sort of committee appointments as would be the Committee of Adjustment or any other committee we have. Suddenly it seems I mean, do we put out a competition to see who wants to join into this thing? I mean, it seems a little odd to me that we've just, appointed 3 people and that's it. That's not the way the committees work. Thank you.
Go
So
ahead, Madam Clerk.
in response to that, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Staff have undertaken this as a full review of not just line fences, but of pound keeping and of other aspects of dated legislation that require these positions to be appointed. It's forthcoming in the 2022 clerks departmental work plan, if you will. So we plan to do a more, and if that is something that council wants to see, that is generally, it's been 2 or 3 other municipalities that I've reviewed. It's more toward the west that have made their committee of adjustment fence viewers as well. You can also appoint staff. It's really, you can appoint whoever you want to appoint. I was in response to this application, keeping it consistent with the prior bylaw, just because I know these people have the background and the knowledge of what it requires to be a fence viewer.
I'm sorry. So if I'm hearing that correctly, then Madam Clerk, really, we're under a bit of pressure here because there is something in front of us that needed to be dealt with. Is that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that correct?
That's the urgency associated with this, yeah.
Oh, okay. And does this cycle with council then as our committees do?
It absolutely should. Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. And that's the plan, is undertaking a process next year, hopefully appointing early 2023. And then every year, every cycle, council term thereafter, appointing these legislated positions with the incoming council term.
So therefore, we're leaning, this could be made in a similar light to the committees where a list of people are garnered. However, you might go and ask them, is that reasonable? Is that
Yes.
what we could be doing here for consistency?
Yes, we could do that.
Oh, okay. So this appointment would last until next council. Fair?
Yes, until a fulsome process can be undertaken, yeah. Which we
Okay.
plan for 2023.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Counselor Maybe. Oh, sorry, Counselor Oki had his hand up first, and then Counselor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I don't wish to be impertinent, but the whole thing about fence viewing, I think someone with deep, deep roots in this township might know something of the lore of fence viewing. I think it's one of the oldest appointments in provincial administration. And it's usually been somebody who's been around for a while and knows where the property lines were. It just resolves disputes between neighbors. And as we've seen, they come up about once every 10 years. That would be a very slow committee, I would think. And that might have suited the times of, I think when I was researching, probably Governor Simcoe appointed the first fence viewers in about 1794. So this has been around for a while. And please correct me on the dates if I'm wrong. I'm sure there was a Fody involved in it back then. Or they were disputing Fody fence lines, perhaps.
Counselor maybe, and then Counselor Fody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, my only question was, has there ever been a council appointee to this particular committee ever?
Not to my knowledge, since amalgamation, it's only been citizens, but during my research, I believe there's nothing to say that one couldn't be, but then it would be a conflict of interest, I'm sure, if you were getting paid to do that.
Because you're getting an honorarium that would come before council
I
as
mean,
well.
I
Counselor
can't give you
Fody?
that advice, but
Just to comment, your worship, to my colleague across the way. If that was the case with Governor Simcoe, I highly doubt barbed wire and a few other highly technical electric fence definitely wouldn't be involved. But Councillor Grell had made the comment about opening up to people that want to put their name forward. We won't need a lot of ink or paper, rest assured.
Yeah. Okay, any further comments in regards to the motion at hand? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, it's carried. And next motion that's on the floor. Gave away my agenda. Okay, moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Grell, that council pass bylaw number 21-061, being a bylaw to establish general rates and fees for various services provided by the municipality to take effect January 1st, 2022. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed, and we're carried. There you go, Madam Planner. You got off easy this evening. Councillor, next motion is by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Grell, that council approve bylaw to stop up, close, convey at fair market value a portion of unopened road allowance located on lot 22 and lot 23, concession 5, former township in front of Escott, and that the applicant provide the reference plan of the lands to be conveyed prepared by a qualified surveyor at their expense, and that the applicant provide the township with land appraisal for the property to determine the value of land, and that the land value be established in appraisal, and any other costs incurred by the township to complete the land transaction are to be paid for by the applicant. Discussion on this motion. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. Next motion is Councillor Olkey, moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Grell. And council supports the application for alteration to cover the existing asphalt shingle roof, sorry, not single roof, dear Lord, shingle roof with a new metal roof for the property located at 3410 County Road 3, the Long Point Schoolhouse, as set out in the submission to the Municipal Heritage Committee. The council approves the Heritage Celebration Grant application received in respect of the property known as the Long Point Schoolhouse in the amount of $2,500. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion at hand, please signify. All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, so the next motion that's on the floor is the schedule of meetings, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Garrell, that council approve the 2022 schedule of meetings as circulated, and that council approve the amendment of the 2021 schedule of meetings to allow the November 18th, 2021 budget meeting to begin at 10 a.m. as opposed to 9 a.m. Discussion on the motion. So you won't have to be here bright and bushy tailed. Go ahead, Councillor Garrell.
We've had this discussion before, but with respect to daytime meetings versus evening meetings, is that anything that this council wants to entertain again?
And I've heard the arguments. Just want to bring it up again because we go through this every year.
Is there any comments to be made? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. As everybody knows, I work a full-time job, so coming to the afternoon meetings or something that's not in an evening makes it very difficult for me to participate in some of these, which I'm a little bit discouraged with, because I know that in the past, there have been councillors who don't have as much leisure time as maybe some of our present council have, as much as they are not very leisurely in their own activities, but at least their paycheck may be a little different, so that they do have some latitude to make it here for afternoon or early or different times. So I know that's always been difficult for me, and even to that effect, even the budget meeting I may not be able to make because of a conflict with work. Still trying to work it out, but again, it comes to that point. When things are happening during a work time and you're expected to be there, it's difficult to be somewhere else. Thanks.
Okay.
And just following that up, Councillor, maybe your point is well taken that perhaps taking it away from the evening does discourage people from participating at council, which would be a bad thing. So thank you for your comments.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and carried. Okay. So next motion that's on the floor. Oh, mayor's update. My apologies. Yep, wrong, too many papers. Mayor's update. It's very slim update this week, gentlemen, ladies. I'm very, very pleased that our senior management team, spearheaded by the treasurer, has brought forward the first draft for review for the council. Our council will have extra time to digest, come to the senior managers specifically about their specific budgets, if they have questions, queries, concerns. And I think it's a very exciting document as budgets go. Mainly because it's somewhat informed by the beginnings of our asset management plan. And as discussed previously, the building condition assessments that have come forward through the Director of Operations, that informs our decisions even more. So we thank all of the senior management team for making sure that we have the best possible information to make the best possible decisions for the future of this municipality and on behalf of our ratepayers. So there's that. Also, this week is Remembrance Day. My hope is that one and all will be able to attend one or multiple services. I do know that the Rockport service is held at 1 p.m. versus 11 a.m. in order to utilize people from the Mallorytown Legion. So if you are unable to attend even at 11 in the morning, perhaps at 1, or if you're at 1, you can come to the other as well if you so desire. We also have, I guess the other one was the fire appointment. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that's everything for me. It's been fairly quiet. Otherwise, just trying to get through the budget binder, which is a nice meaty document to go through. So are there any other updates pertaining that I've missed? If not, notice of motion. So is anybody, go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to crossing the border with the testing and us sending a letter to our upper governments in support of not having to, well, I guess it's double or fully vaccinated people coming across the border shouldn't have to have a COVID test pre-entering back into Canada. But what we should do is once they get back here, if they're showing signs of symptoms, again, just like what Health Canada or the Ontario government is saying, self-isolate, get a test to verify whether you do or don't have it. But fully vaccinated people coming back to Canada should not have to be waiting 72 hours in the States, to get a test to prove that they're negative to come across. When we do have the ability to do that testing here in Canada, instantaneously with either the rapid test or go to a testing site, have it done, because typically you're getting it back within a 24-hour, and in some cases even 12 hours period. So their self-isolation at home, which is not much different than what they did at the first of this pandemic, is to make sure that they are keeping them and other citizens safe, but still allowing them to do that cross-border shopping as so many like to do.
Okay, so that's the notice of motion coming forward for debate and discussion. Going forward, Councillor Jameson.
I appreciate what Counselor maybe is saying. I still have great concerns about offering an opinion as to what should be done simply because we're not the scientists, we're not the health unit. I think to ask the government to provide some consistency of application is probably as far as we should stray into the weeds, in my humble opinion, but our CAO may have an opinion on that when we get to the actual discussion. So that's just my point of view.
We will ask that the counselor who's made the notice of motion work with staff to provide an accurate and a well-researched motion so that we're not getting into the weeds and putting ourselves in any sort of jeopardy of making a stand in, Custard's last stand type thing. So preferably not. Councillor Fody, do you have a notice of motion?
No, I was sorry, Your Worship. I was going to comment on Councillor Maybe's.
Go ahead.
I support Councillor Maybe's motion and
We can't discuss anything or take comments. It's just a notice. So until it's on the floor, we can't debate it. I guess I should have shut down Mr. Jameson as well. I apologize. I need to get faster on the gavel. Have I used the gavel once yet? I've not gavelled anybody down. You guys are entirely too well behaved. Anyways.
Change that.
Any further notices of motion? Okay, announcements. Any announcements? Go ahead, Councillor Fody.
thank you, Your Worship, through you. I might solicit the Director of Operations to weigh in on this. We had a longtime employee recently retire from our Public Works Department. And I had discussed this with the Operations Director a week or so ago, and the person of Dale Ty. And I know Dale has been an exemplary employee in this township for a long, long time. And maybe I'll just leave it to our Director of Operations to fill in any blanks, please.
Hopefully we've not overstepped, but go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. That's correct. Dale Ty hasn't officially retired yet. He's utilizing his vacation time to get him through to the end of the year. But yeah, we're hoping that we're going to see him again before that official date, and we can congratulate him and thank him for his years of service, and yeah, have everybody around to celebrate that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Fody, follow up.
Yeah, follow up, please, Your Worship. How many years do you know offhand?
Oh,
That's a test for you, kind of new to the township, but it's
I
been
believe
a
it was
long time.
23, if I'm not mistaken.
How many?
I could be mistaken. I thought it was 23.
That might be just the amalgamated part, the 21 years of 2000 deputy mayor, the amalgamation.
And then he was
He was an employee in Ward 2 for a long time before that.
So it would be the rear of Leeds and Lansdowne. So it would be interesting. So we should look up that information prior to celebrating. If staff could make a note of that, that would be great.
Thank you.
So yes, Mr. Ty has been a invaluable member of our operations team and a level head and a common sense kind of guy. So we definitely will. It'll be hard to replace that. Go ahead, CAO, you want to add something?
Dale started with the township in 1998. So
That's the year of
23.
amalgamation. So
yeah, but from our records, but
I'm sure
have to
he'll
go
be
back.
able to tell.
We can go back to Homer's and get previous service in that.
Fair enough. Maureen will know. Okay, so next on the agenda, or sorry, announcements. Any further announcements? Okay, Seeing none, I have to declare a conflict with one of the bylaws, so I am going to leave the room for bylaw number 21-065. So I'll ask. Okay, so I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to, for 3 readings and final passage to be granted to bylaws number 21-061 through to 21-064. So 062, 063, and 064. 065 is the one that I will be declaring a conflict on. Are there any comments? I need a mover and a seconder, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe and Deputy Mayor Lackey. Okay. So any further discussion on those bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And we're carried. Deputy Mayor Lackey, if you would take the chair, and I'll leave the room for the next bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, everybody's seen bylaw 21-065. I need a mover and a seconder so we can put this on the floor. Move. Councillor Fody. We got Councillor Fody and.
Seconded.
Great. Yep. The motion reads that 3 readings of final passage be granted to bylaw 21-065, being a bylaw to appoint fence viewers for the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Done there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the confirmation bylaw, please? Oh. Is that still a conflict?
No.
Oh,
I don't believe we passed bylaw 066. We went to 61 through 64.
Okay.
we skipped over 66. This is only 67, which is confirmation bylaw.
Give me a second and I'll draw that one up,
And then,
please.
thank you. I can't really be appointing, it can't be misconstrued. I forgot, to be honest. Okay, So I will need a mover and a seconder for three readings and final passage to be granted to bylaw number 21-066, being a bylaw to authorize the articles of agreement by the Ministry of Employment and Social Development for the Enabling Access Grant. Mover and a seconder, Council Foti, and then Councillor Oki. Any discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
Do we need to point out, through you, your worship, do we need to point out that this bylaws was just amended a little bit?
I think it's the third provision. You'll see the administrative provision in the bylaw that allows us to make the administrative amendments if it's of a spelling error or,
Okay, just to prevent any confusion with the public.
Yep.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you.
yep, it's put in there.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. Last motion prior to adjournment, I need a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Garel, mover. Seconder, Councillor maybe. At three readings, the final passage to be granted to bylaw number 21-067, being the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation, Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its meetings held on November 1 and November 8th, 2021. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Next motion, non-debatable, moved by Councillor Garel, seconded by Councillor Oki, that council adjourns. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we are adjourned.